Everyone thinks fruit trees are a spring-only game. Wrong. There's a whole category of container fruit that actually prefers a summer start. I'm going to show you exactly which ones. Here's what the in-ground gardener can't do that you can. Heat spikes into the 90s. Sun scorches everything by noon. They just watch and hope. You pick up the pot, move it to shade. Same tree, same fruit. Zero damage. That's the quiet advantage of container fruit. The window everybody assumes is closed by July, wide open for you. 9 fruits you can still plant in pots this summer. Done the honest way. Which ones are foolproof no matter your space? Which ones need a heat protection trick to survive? And number 7. Almost nobody talks about it. And it might be the easiest win on this whole list. Stick around. That superpower comes back in a big way later. Let's get into it. Most people believe this. Didn't they get a fruit tree in the ground by spring? You're done. Wait till fall. Wait till next year. Forget it. Flat wrong. Especially in a pot. Right now, midsummer, you can fill a container with a fruit plant and be eating off it before the season's out. Some of these produce in weeks, not years. Here's the promise. 9 fast-growing fruits you can plant in pots this month. Done honestly. Which ones thrive on a tiny balcony with zero fuss? Which ones need a real trick to survive peak heat? And which ones are the biggest payoff on the list? Including a dwarf tree almost nobody plants. One that can change how you think about growing fruit in small spaces. Stick with me to the end. The last few on this list carry the biggest reward. And number 7 might be the one you regret not planting the moment you hear it. Before the list, one piece of math that makes all of this click. Get this once, and you'll never guess wrong again. Every fruit plant has a timeline. Weeks or months to first harvest. It's right on the nursery tag. Here's what the tag won't tell you. In a container, that number is only half the story. What actually decides whether your fruit survives isn't time. It's heat exposure to the root zone. Here's why. A tree in the ground has feet of insulating soil around its roots. A tree in a pot has a few inches of plastic or clay between those roots and full summer sun. Every container fruit plant is running against what I call the heat factor. The smaller the pot, the faster the soil heats up, the sooner you have to step in. Rule of thumb, under 5 gallons, add a heat buffer. Bigger mulch layer, lighter colored pot, afternoon shade. Small containers spike in root temperature far faster than large ones. Get the pot size right, and that buffer takes care of itself. Then the second half of the math. First fruit timing. Fast bearers like strawberries and some dwarf citrus give you something to eat within weeks. Slower dwarf trees, fig, citrus from young stock, are playing a longer game. You're planting now for a payoff that stretches into next season, but the reward is bigger too. So here's the whole trick. Match the plant's speed to your patience. Match the pot size to the season's heat. Get those 2 numbers right, and everything on this list works. Get them wrong, and you'll fight your containers all summer. I'll tell you exactly where each of these 9 lands as we go. Now, containers. For a minute. This matters more than the plant itself. 4 things. Get these right, everything grows. Get them wrong, nothing does. First, the right size pot. I'll give you the exact number for every fruit on this list, but remember the rule. Bigger plant, deeper roots, bigger pot. A small pot in peak summer heat dries out by noon and cooks the roots before the plant gets a chance. When in doubt, size up. More soil, more water held, cooler roots. Second, real container soil mix. Never garden soil straight from the yard. This is one of the most common mistakes people make. Ordinary garden soil compacts hard in a pot, chokes the roots, drains poorly. Container plants need a loose, well-draining mix built for pots. Third, drainage holes. Non-negotiable. Every pot, bucket, grow container, holes in the bottom. No holes, water sits, roots rot, plants finished before it starts. Fourth, water and feed more than you think. A pot in summer heat can need daily watering, sometimes twice on the hottest days. All that watering washes nutrients out the bottom, so feed every couple weeks to keep the plant producing instead of just growing leaves. One more heat tip. A dark pot in full summer sun bakes the root zone, sometimes hot enough to kill root hairs on the sun-facing side. Stick to light-colored containers, breathable fabric grow bags, or just shade the pot itself during the harshest part of the day. Get these 4 dialed in once. And every fruit we're about to cover gets dramatically easier. Starting with the ones you truly cannot mess up. These first four don't care about your zone, your experience, or your patio size. New to growing fruit? Start here. Number 1. Strawberries. The fastest payoff on this entire list. Ever-bearing and perpetual varieties can give you a first harvest within weeks, then keep fruiting in flushes right through the season. Perpetual types are bred to spread that harvest out instead of dumping it all at once. Exactly what you want in a pot. Weeks of picking, not one big rush. A container 8 to 12 inches deep is plenty. A hanging basket or tiered planter works beautifully. The runners cascade over the edge. Safe absolutely everywhere. Your easiest win, hands down. Number 2. Blueberries. People assume blueberries are an in-ground, years-to-fruit crop. Wrong. Dwarf and half-high varieties fruit fast in containers, and a pot solves the one problem most gardeners struggle with: soil acidity. Blueberries demand acidic soil most garden beds don't have. But in a pot, you control that mix completely from day one. Use an ericaceous potting mix, a container at least 12 to 18 inches across, and you sidestep the single biggest reason blueberries fail in the ground. Water with rainwater when you can. Tap water can push soil pH the wrong direction over time. Number 3. Bramble fruit. Dwarf thornless blackberries and raspberries. One of the fastest growing fruiting plants you can put in a pot. Thornless patio varieties are bred to stay compact instead of sprawling everywhere. A 5-gallon pot with a small trellis or stake gives the canes something to lean on. Vigorous, forgiving, safe in nearly every climate. The only catch: keep them consistently watered. A bramble that dries out even once during fruit set drops flowers before they ever become berries. Number 4. Ground cherries or husk cherries. The one most people have never grown, and it deserves way more attention. Small, sweet, pineapple tropical flavor, wrapped in a papery husk. One of the fastest, most foolproof fruiting plants for a pot. Closer in speed and ease to a vegetable than a fruit tree. A 3 to 5 gallon container is enough. Once it gets going, it self-seeds and drops ripe fruit right into the husk on the ground, so you know exactly when to pick. Safe everywhere, virtually pest-free, and almost nobody's growing it. Free win. That's your 4 foolproof fruits. Fast, forgiving, safe no matter where you're planting. Before the last 5, the ones with the biggest payoff and the biggest catch, here's the superpower I promised you. This is the whole reason a container fruit garden can outperform an in-ground one in the dead of summer. Growing fruit in the ground during a heat wave, whatever's planted out there takes the full brunt of the sun, all day, every day. Roots bake, soil dries out fast. By the time anyone notices wilting, the damage to that season's fruit is already done. They can't move their soil. Your fruit is in pots. Forecast spikes into extreme heat. You pick the container straight up. Move it into afternoon shade, under a patio umbrella, against the house. Morning sun only. A couple hours later, or the next morning, move it back into full light. Same plant. Zero stress. The in-ground trees next door are shedding fruit and scorching leaves. Yours keeps producing. Here's what makes it even better. Dwarf trees take this further. A fig or dwarf citrus in a container isn't locked into your climate at all. Conditions turn brutal, or winter comes. Bring the whole pot inside. Keep it alive year-round if you want. Set it back out when conditions are right. You're not just protecting one summer's harvest. You're keeping a tree alive across seasons. It would never survive in your ground at all. That's the superpower. The next 5 fruits on this list are exactly what it was built for. Let's get into them. These next 2 step it up a level. Not instant gratification, but they reward patience. And in a container, they're far more manageable than people assume. Number 5. Dwarf apple. People hear apple tree and picture something that needs a yard and a decade. Wrong, on both counts, in a container. Dwarf and patio grafted varieties are bred to stay small and fruit young. Standout picks among container-friendly apple varieties. A pot at least 15 to 20 inches across, a sturdy stake, full sun. That's really all it takes. The honest catch: most apples need a second variety nearby for pollination. Check the tag before you buy. Or grab a self-fertile variety if you've only got room for one pot. Number 6. Dwarf peach or nectarine. The one people are most surprised belongs on a summer planting list at all. Dwarf stone fruit handles container life well, but the real challenge is summer heat management. which is exactly why protecting the root zone matters more here than almost anywhere else on this list. Their root systems are especially sensitive to overheated soil, so shielding pot-grown roots once temperatures spike is critical. Go with a large container, 20+ inches, light-colored if you can. Don't skip the mulch layer. Get the heat management right, and a dwarf peach rewards you with fruit years sooner than anyone expects from a tree. That's your two hardy picks. Bigger commitment, bigger eventual reward. All right, the one I told you about at the start. The pick that might be the easiest win on this entire list, and almost nobody plants it. Number 7. The potted fig tree. This is the reveal. Figs are one of the best possible fruit trees for a container, full stop, because they naturally stay compact when their roots are restricted. Exactly what a pot does. High yields in a container come down to two things: consistent watering and the right feeding schedule through the growing season. Get those right, and a potted fig outproduces what most people expect from a tree that size. Go with a container, at least 10 to 15 gallons, full sun, and don't let it dry out completely between waterings. Honest verdict, the highest reward to effort ratio on the whole list. If you only add one advanced fruit this summer, make it this one. Number 8. Dwarf citrus, lemon. The dream patio fruit. More achievable than people think, but it comes with real upkeep. The through line for keeping these thriving in small spaces is consistency. Citrus in a pot punishes inconsistent watering and feeding fast, dropping fruit or yellowing leaves the moment it's neglected. A 10 to 15 gallon pot, the sunniest spot you've got. Citrus-specific fertilizer on a steady schedule. Honest verdict. Gorgeous payoff, genuine fragrance and fruit on a patio. But this is the fruit on the list that asks the most attention in return. Worth it if you're willing to stay on top of it. Number 9. Dwarf kumquat or lime. Closing the list with citrus's smaller, tougher cousin. Kumquats are more cold and heat tolerant than lemon or lime, and the fruit is eaten whole, skin and all. One of the more novel, conversation-starting plants you can grow in a pot. Same container and care as the dwarf lemon, just a slightly more forgiving plant. Honest verdict, if the lemon feels like too much commitment, start here instead. Same citrus payoff, lower stakes learning curve. That's your 9. Fast wins up front, bigger rewards at the end. And the fig at number 7 is the one I genuinely tell a friend to plant this week. Now let me save you some wasted money and a wasted pot. There are a few fruits all over the internet right now that are just plain wrong for a summer container start. Number 1. Full-size standard fruit trees. You'll see people telling you to grab a regular, non-dwarf apple, peach, or citrus tree and pot it up. Don't. Standard rootstock is bred to send roots deep and wide. Exactly what a container can't offer. They'll stay stunted and stressed indefinitely instead of thriving. If it doesn't say dwarf, patio, or genetic dwarf on the tag, it's not a container plant. Melons and watermelons. People love the idea, but sprawling vines need enormous root runs and months of steady heat to size up. A midsummer container start almost never gives them enough runway before the season turns. Save these for an in-ground bed next spring. Cherries. Even dwarf sweet cherry varieties are notoriously fussy in pots, sensitive to root disturbance, slow to establish, and most need a pollinator partner nearby. Starting one in a container in the middle of summer heat stacks 3 problems at once. Avocado from a pit. It's all over social media. It's a novelty, not a fruit plan. A pit-grown avocado can take the better part of a decade to fruit, if it ever does at all, indoors or in a pot. You're growing a houseplant, not a harvest. I'd rather tell you the truth and save you the pot than sell you a fantasy. Here's your simple plan, starting today. Fastest, safest wins, especially if this is your first year growing fruit in containers. Plant the foolproof group first. Strawberries, blueberries, thornless brambles, ground cherries. Get those 4 in pots this week, and you'll have something to pick before summer's out. Ready to level up? Grab a dwarf apple or a dwarf peach. Size the pot right. Commit to the heat management routine. Mulch, light-colored containers, shade during the worst of the afternoon sun. Want the single best payoff for the effort? Well, let's skip number 7. Get a potted fig going this week. Consistent water, consistent feeding, full sun. You'll be stunned how fast it produces for a tree. Whatever you plant, remember the 4 foundations. Right-size pot with drainage holes. Real potting mix. Water daily through the heat. and feed every couple of weeks. And when the next heatwave forecast rolls in, remember the superpower. Pick the pot up, move it to shade or indoors for the worst of it. Set it back out once things cool down. That one habit is the difference between a stressed, fruitless plant and a container that keeps producing all summer. The exact advantage the in-ground garden next door doesn't have. Summer isn't too late to start growing fruit. For a container gardener, it's just a different way in. No yard to dig up, no years to wait on most of these, and the freedom to move your harvest out of harm's way whenever you need to. So this week, pick one from the Foolproof group and get a pot going. Tell me in the comments which one you're planting and what climate you're in. I read every one, and it helps the next person figure out what'll actually work where they are. If this saves you from wasting a pot on the wrong fruit, send it to someone who thinks it's too late to grow anything this summer. It isn't, not even close.